If you don't know me, I'm Brandon. I'm one of the SLS graduates here. For Sundays, I'm back in the booth as always, and the lead sound tech. Work with Shane Tabor and everyone back, and work with worship team. And this sermon we're on mission. And last week, Al Grant came and spoke about freedom, how we're growing up and we're getting more freedoms, we're getting more responsibilities, and all that fun stuff. And this week, we're talking about following leading into leadership. And that's something that we all have to do whenever it comes to growing up. But first, let's go ahead and jump up on there. Hebrews 13:7, it says, "Remember your leaders who taught you the word of God. Think of all the good that has come from their lives, and follow the example of their faith." And Josh, excellent. He's took me in from the beginning, the whole time I've been here. He was one of the first ones to say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And he brought me up. So, first point is when God calls, you answer. Pretty simple. No matter how many times you try to avoid it, it will be answered either way, whether you like it or not. So, first things first, we're going to talk about Moses. Moses is one of my favorite stories in the burning bush. There was this dude that had his people, they were all in Egypt, and he had his people, the Israelites, that were slaves. They were slaves to Pharaoh. All Egypt had been there for quite a while. And one day, Moses was standing around looking, and one of the Egyptians, they were beating one of his family and one of his people, the Israelites, and he got angry. He just got furious, so he picked up a rock and literally beat him to death with that rock. And immediately after that, Moses ran away. He's just like, I don't want to face Pharaoh for this. This is his people. Should have killed him. So he fled. He ended up working for his stepfather. And one day he was, hang on. It's going to make noises the whole time. Anyway, he worked for his father. His father was, he was a shepherd, and so Moses was out taking the sheep, and he went into this forest. He just went far away, and he took the sheep with him, of course. He was herding them, and then all of a sudden a bush caught on fire. It was just a bush. It stayed intact, but it was literally on fire. It wasn't doing anything, and then an angel of the Lord appeared in the bush. And it's like Moses, and the first thing Moses is, "I'm here." He waves his hands like, "I'm here." And then the bush is like, "Come closer." And so he slowly moves towards it. He says, "Stop. Don't move. Take off your sandals. This is holy ground." And then Moses took off his sandals, and he's just like, "What now?" And the bush continues talking. He's like, "Your people, they're back in Egypt. You left. You have to go free them." So basically, by this bush, Moses was appointed by God from the burning bush to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. And, it's something that, somebody walks up to you and says, "Hey, man, can you just do this?" Well, that's different compared to leading a giant nation out of slavery, just basically running away. And how can you do that just by, a bush asking you? Burning bush. And it was more of a shock to Moses. But immediately Moses rebelled, and he's like, in Exodus 3:11, it says, "But Moses protested to God, 'Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt?'" He had to lead his people, but God answered in one way. "I will be with you." That's all I will be with you. And that's something over the 3 years that I've been here has really been my motto. God will always be with me. He's never left me. He never will leave me. And he's been here, been everywhere with me through all my troubles, all my conflicts, through school. He's always through school, and all that stuff. But after that, when he went and saved his people, after the 10 plagues, he grabs the people, starts leaving, parts the Red Sea, and walks across and crushes the Egyptians, and then, people saved. Well, Moses ends up disobeying, and well, he wanders around the desert for 40 years. So that's basically his mission so far. How I got here was I first started in a little church called Crosspoint, right down the road. It was in the next to the fire station, that little corner. It was right there, and we combined with Mercy's Cross here to make that church cabinet like 3 years ago or something like that. And I didn't really do much. I was young, I didn't think I could do anything. It was like 14, 15 whenever we moved churches, and I was just kind of shy. I didn't really talk to anybody. People were weird. So anyway, Josh Lewis, first leader I've ever talked to. He was the first one to come up to me and say, "Hey, how are you? How's your day been?" And ever since then, he's been pouring into me day after day, and just keeping conversations, keeping up with me. Hey, I've been reading your Bible, all that fun stuff. Soon after that, I took an interview, to see what I would like, and I said, hey, I want to work with technology, that kind of stuff, and then I ended up working for Josh in the children's ministry. I was the lead tech that built videos and stuff, kind of like the things that we see up here, but for kids, and it's a lot more singing and dancing, stuff that you guys maybe wouldn't do, be embarrassed to do. And soon after that, I started training Sam and Garrett. Sam was my first, and he still works back there with Garrett. Garrett eventually took over making lead, and then I moved up here into soundboard. Dylan's back there waving. Now that I'm lead sound tech on Sundays, I'm starting to train people, and I'm still working under Shane Tabor while he manages both communications. And mainly how I got here on stage is because of Josh. It was like 2 years ago. We were out in the crossing still whenever we first started. And it was like, whenever we just got off the black bus, Josh came up to me one week. He's like, hey man, you want to preach? And I was like, what? Are you serious? I'm just the kid in the back. I just kind of hang back.